Astrodome in Houston, Texas, for the 57th time. The American League takes on the National League. And the starting pitchers, Roger Clemens and Dwight Gooden. Clemens earlier this year set a major league mark with 20 strikeouts in one game against Seattle. He comes in with a mark of 15-2. And Dr. K of the New York Mets has won 10 to help lead his club to a commanding 13-game lead in the National League East. Entered the National League in 1962. The old Colt 45s played in an outdoor stadium that was hot and sultry and mosquito-laden. But then the Astros moved in here to, at that time, what they called the eighth wonder of the world, the Astrodome. We take it so much for granted now as domed stadiums dot the landscape coast to coast, but it's worth remembering this was the first of the indoor ballparks, and tonight it hosts the 57th All-Star Game. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Houston, and if history tells us anything, it should be a low-scoring game. This is a pitcher's park, tough to hit home runs in, and the only other All-Star game played here was in 1968. It was the only 1-0 All-Star game in history, and wouldn't you know it, the only run of the game came across the plate when Willie McCovey grounded into a double play. More of the same tonight? Well, we'll see. We've got some good pitchers on both sides, but it's also worth noting, I think, most of all tonight, that each All-Star game marks sort of a passing of the torch. This one in particular. Here it is, 1986, and think about some of the active players. Pete Rose is not here tonight. Reggie Jackson is not here. Steve Garvey is home. Nolan Ryan, who pitches his home games in this ballpark, is not here tonight. And then there are the 4 300-game active winners. Steve Carlton of the Giants, Phil Niekro of Cleveland, Don Sutton, who won his 300th earlier this season for California, and Tom Seaver of Boston. And those 8 men who just about have their tickets written to Cooperstown are all in the television audience. So nostalgia takes a backseat tonight. Amongst the new guard, perhaps best typifying some of those new stars, now not only on the horizon but having arrived, are the 2 starting pitchers. Roger Clemens, who earlier this season struck out 20, won his first 14, and comes in with a mark of 15-2, and comes back home in a way. He went to high school in Houston. He'll be on the mound against Dwight Gooden. Here are the feelings of tonight's starting pitchers.
It's going to be exciting. Everybody at home, mother and all my family's going to be coming in and getting to see it. And it's going to be a little extra pressure because the family's there, and it is in front of my hometown and all the coaches I played for and all that bit. So it'll be exciting, and it'll be probably 3. If I pitch 3 innings, it'll be 3 pressure-packed innings for me.
Well, it's a great feeling, to have the honor to start an All-Star game, not only to make it, but be the starting pitcher. And it's a great honor, facing the American League's best hitters, in one game mid-season, and something you can look back on, when you're out of the game or down in your career.
Each of those men will work the maximum 3 innings, perhaps less, but what about the rest of the rotation? Let's get some insight. The American League manager is Dick Hauser of the Royals, and he's with Jim Palmer.
Thank you, Al. I am with Dick Hauser in front of the third base dugout. Dick, we know Roger Clemens is starting the game. What's the rotation after that?
Well, it's going to be Clemens, it's going to be Higuera, and then it's going to be the knuckleballer Huff. Then we're going to do what we have to do to win it. We're going to try to get a lead, hold on, use our big bats off the bench, and play some defense late.
Now, Roger Clemens pitched Saturday night. He's coming back with only 2 days rest. You're certainly aware of that. Is that going to change your
No, not at all. I knew he was going to pitch on Saturday. We talked about this a month ago. I knew he could pitch Saturday. He'd be well rested. He lives 30 miles from here. I feel good about him pitching.
Okay, another thing, when you have a 28-man roster, I know you'd like to play everybody, but what's more important, getting everybody in the game?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I tell you the truth, I'd like to play everybody, but I'd also like to win the thing, too, so I think winning's going to be first.
Well, best of luck tonight. Let's go over to Tim McCarver with the National League manager, Whitey Herzog.
All right, Jim, and of course, Dwight Gooden starting. Whitey, 2 questions. How long are you going to go with Dwight Gooden? Secondly, who are you going to counter with after Dwight?
Well, actually, I want him to go 3 innings, but if he labors and has a couple of tough innings, I would get him out after 2. After Dwight, I figure I'm going with Fernando Valenzuela, although after Fernando, if I had to get Dwight out of there in the 3rd inning, I would use one of the relief pitchers and then start the inning with Fernando.
And after Fernando, you don't know?
I'm looking at Fernandez, and I'm looking at Scott. I'm going to look at the lineup, see where we're at, how many left-handers or right-handers they come up, and go that direction.
It sure should be a lot of fun. Now let's go back to the booth to Al Michaels.
And Tim, the National League, hopeful the fun will continue because, as most of you know, the National League has dominated. They've won 13 of the last 14 and, unbelievably, 21 of the last 23 All-Star games. And we'll meet both squads when we come back to the Astrodome in Houston. And the crowd still filing into the Astrodome. Capacity up near 45,000. Sold out the second time this Midsummer Baseball Classic has been played in the Astrodome, and the 4th time overall indoors. 1979, it was played in the Kingdome in Seattle, and then last year at the Metrodome in Minneapolis. Right now, let's meet the teams. The PA announcer is Fred Duckett.
Batting practice staff from the Kansas City Royals. Number 41, Mike Ferraro. Number 43, Gary Blaylock. Number 44, Jim Schaefer. The trainers from the New York Yankees, Gene Monahan. Texas Rangers, Bill Ziegler. The coaches from the Cleveland Indians, number 7, Pat Corrales. From the Boston Red Sox, number 1, John McNamara. The players from the Baltimore Orioles, number 33, infielder Eddie Murray. Number 41, pitcher Don Ossie. The Boston Red Sox, number 10, catcher Rich Gedman. The 14, outfielder Jim Wright. From the California Angels, number 39, pitcher Mike Witt. From the Chicago White Sox, number 3, outfielder Harold Bain. From the Cleveland Indians, number 18, pitcher Ken Schramm. Number 26, infielder Brooke Jacoby. From the Detroit Tigers, number 21, pitcher Willie Hernandez. From the Kansas City Royals, selected to his 11th consecutive All-Star game, but unable to perform due to injury, number 5, infielder George Brett. Number 20, infielder Frank White. From the Milwaukee Brewers, number 49, pitcher Teddy Fugera. From the New York Yankees, number 19, pitcher Dave Righetti. Number 23, infielder Don Mattingly. From the Oakland Athletics, number 33, outfielder Jose Canseco. From the Seattle Mariners, number 17, infielder Jim Presley. From the Texas Rangers, number 49, pitcher Charlie Huff. From the Toronto Blue Jays, number 1, infielder Tony Fernandez. Number 15, outfielder Lloyd Mosby. Number 29, outfielder Jesse Barfield. From the 1985 World Champion Kansas City Royals, making his first appearance as an All-Star manager, an All-Star rookie 25 years ago, number 10, Dick Hauser. Now the starting lineup of the American League. Leading off and playing center field, he ranks among the league leaders in batting, home runs, and RBIs. From the Minnesota Twins, number 34, Kirby Puckett. Second and playing left field. A .364 hitter in 5 previous All-Star game appearances from the New York Yankees, number 24, Ricky Henderson. Batting third and playing third base, the major's leading hitter with a .363 average from the Boston Red Sox, number 26, Wade Boggs. Batting fourth and catching. He's belted over 200 Major League home runs in his 10 Major League seasons from the Detroit Tigers, number 13, Lance Parrish. Batting fifth and playing first base, the first rookie ever elected to the All-Star Game starting lineup. From the California Angels, number 21, Wally Joyner. Batting sixth and playing shortstop. He has not missed an inning of play in over 4 seasons. From the Baltimore Orioles, number 8, Cal Ripken. Batting seventh and playing right field. He has appeared in 9 previous All-Star games and owns a .370 All-Star game average. From the New York Yankees, number 31, Dave Winfield. Batting eighth and playing second base. He's batting at even .500 in 3 previous All-Star game appearances. From the Detroit Tigers, number 1, Lou Whitaker. Batting ninth and pitching. He'll be warming up in the bullpen to make his first All-Star appearance. He opened the season with a 14-0 mark from the Boston Red Sox, number 23, Roger Clemens. Next, the National League staff, coaches, and non-starters.
So the biggest hand for the American League and its figures from the Texas Rangers. Charlie Huff, who's well known to Houston fans, has many years with the Dodgers and now a favorite in this part of the state. Rangers having a good season, and Huff, their sole representative on the All-Star squad. Now the National League.
The batting practice staff from the Houston Astros, number 22, Hal Lanier. St. Louis Cardinals, number 4, Mike Lord. The Trainers from the Houston Astros, Dave Lavoisier. From the Los Angeles Dodgers, Bill Mueller. The coaches from the Los Angeles Dodgers, number 2, Tom Lasorda. From the New York Mets, number 5, Davey Johnson. The players from the Chicago Cubs, number 7, catcher, Jody Davis. From the Cincinnati Reds, number 31, pitcher John Franco. Number 39, outfielder Dave Parker. From the Houston Astros, number 17, outfielder Kevin Bass. Number 27, infielder Glenn Davis. Number 33, pitcher Mike Cox. Number 45, pitcher Dave Smith. From the Los Angeles Dodgers, number 3, infielder Steve Sack. Number 34, pitcher Fernando Valenzuela. From the Montreal Expos, number 7, infielder Ubi Brooks. Number 30, outfielder Tim Raines. Number 41, pitcher Jeff Reardon. New York Mets, number 50, pitcher Sid Fernandez. From the Philadelphia Phillies, number 28, pitcher Shane Rawley. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, number 6, catcher Tony Pena. Number 29, pitcher Rick Roden. From the San Francisco Giants, number 30, outfielder Chili Davis. Number 35, infielder Chris Brown. Number 39, pitcher Mike Trucco. The manager from the 1985 National League champion St. Louis Cardinals. He's a 3-time recipient of the Major League Manager of the Year award, number 24, Whitey Herzog. Now the starting lineup for the National League. Leading off and playing left field, the National League's top hitter with a .341 average from the San Diego Padres, number 19, Tony Gwynn. Batting second and playing second base, the most valuable player in the National League in 1984 from the Chicago Cubs, number 23, Ryne Sandberg. Batting third and playing first base, he has won 8 consecutive Gold Glove awards from the New York Mets, number 17, Keith Hernandez. Batting fourth and catching, a 9-time All-Star and twice named the game's most valuable player. From the New York Mets, number 8, Gary Carter. Batting fifth and playing right field, The top vote getter in this year's All-Star balloting from the New York Mets, number 18, Darryl Strawberry. Batting sixth and playing third base. He's making his 10th All-Star appearance and currently leads the league in RBIs with 66 from the Philadelphia Phillies, number 20, Mike Metz. Batting seventh and playing center field. A two-time National League Most Valuable Player and three-time home run champ from the Atlanta Braves, number 3, Dale Murphy. Batting eighth and playing shortstop. A six-time All-Star and winner of 6 consecutive Gold Glove awards. From the St. Louis Cardinals, number 1, Ozzie Smith. Batting ninth and pitching, he's warming up in the bullpen. Last year's National League Cy Young winner from the New York Mets, number 16, Dwight Gooden. Ladies and gentlemen, two of baseball's all-time greats are with us tonight as the traditional honorary captains of the American and National League squads. For the American League, this Hall of Fame second baseman spent all 19 Major League seasons with the Detroit Tigers. He batted over 313 times and finished with a .320 average and 2,839 hits. Named to baseball's greatest living team in 1969, he batted 506 All-Star Game appearances. The mechanical man, Charlie Gehringer. The honorary captain for the National League began his 23 Major League career right here with the Houston Colt 45. A career .279 hitter, he collected 2,716 career hits, including 100 as a pinch hitter, a six-time All-Star. He delivered the game-winning hit in the 1967 game, number 10 in his Colt 45 uniform, Rusty Staub.
A comfortable and very pleasant air-conditioned 72 degrees in the Astrodome as we get set for the All-Star Game.
Eli Zarek
tonight.
Live from the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. The 1986 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. For the 57th time, the American League taking on the National League. And will the domination continue? Al Michaels with Jim Palmer. Jim, for many seasons, you were in the American League All-Star Clubhouse. The American League has now dropped 13 of the last 14. Unbelievably to me, 21 out of 23. Fluke, or is there a reason for it?
Well, you look for a plausible reason, and I've only been able to come up with one. If you talk to both of the teams, they say, we're equal until the game starts, and then the American League constantly loses. As you said, 21 out of the last 23 times. The Elias Sports Service did a book called the Elias Baseball Analyst Book, and in that book, I think it discusses an age-old question in baseball. Does good pitching stop good hitting? And it really doesn't as far as averages go. They did a statistical analysis of the 85 season and took the top 12 National League pitchers against the 1985 National League All-Star team. And what they found is the batting averages are about the same, 258 versus 260. So the averages came down 2 points. But where the big difference lies, Al, is in home runs, doubles, and triples. In other words, translating into runs scored. And I think that's really the difference between the National League and the American League. The American League sits back, they wait for the big innings. They got one in 1971, they won. They got one, a 7-run inning in 1983, they won. For them to win, they're going to have to be more aggressive.
And in 1983, when they did win, the final was 13-3. Fred Lynn hit a grand slam home run in that 7-run third inning off Atlee Hammaker. Well, that's Jim Palmer's summation. Tim McCarver, of course, spent most of his career in the National League. Fluke, or is there a reason in your estimation?
Well, I think the big reason that the National League has dominated, really since 1962, as Al said, they've won 21 of 23. That was the year, not coincidentally, that Maury Wills stole 104 bases. Then came Lou Brock. The National League, of course, kept that momentum going in the All-Star game, and that's they've been running wild. They do do have a spirited group of guys. I will say this, that the Yankees, if they can keep Ricky Henderson in the lineup for the full game and give him 4 or 5 at bat, then I think they have a better chance to win, because Ricky Henderson is the one catalyst that the American League has not had, and giving him a chance to really break out and run.
And Dick Hauser has put Henderson in the number 2 spot, and he'll bat behind Kirby Puckett of the Minnesota Twins. So it's Herzog in the National League, Hauser and the American League in the sold-out Astrodome. The game begins when we come back.
Copy of the official All-Star program, the same one sold at the ballpark. The All-Star program is a collector's item with 112 pages of All-Star action, past and present. Send check or money order for $6 to All-Star Program, Box 4686, Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. That's All-Star Program, Box 4686, Trenton, New Jersey. Allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery, and be sure to include your proper return address. The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Wednesday.
It's time to get our party started.
He's an American hero who's taking on the third world. MacGyver.
And the National League team has taken the field with Dwight Gooden going to the mound at the Astrodome. Moments ago, the ceremonial first pitch, no stranger in these parts, the Vice President of the United States, George Bush, who was the captain of the Yale baseball team in 1948 and played in the College World Series, getting the honors tonight. Defensively for the National League, Keith Hernandez gets the start at first base. It's the first time he has started an All-Star game. And Ryne Sandberg is becoming a fixture, the Chicago Cubs' second baseman. Ozzie Smith is making his 4th consecutive All-Star game start at shortstop. And nostalgia, as I mentioned before, may be taking a back seat with some, but not with that man. Mike Schmidt, as usual, at third. In the outfield, and this is the 3rd consecutive year these three have started, Tony Gwynn is in left. The center fielder is the 2-time MVP of the Atlanta Braves, Dale Murphy. And the right fielder is Darryl Strawberry, who put on an unbelievable show in batting practice yesterday, hitting one off a speaker. Gary Carter of the New York Mets is back of the plate, and it would figure with Dwight Gooden on the mound that there would be and should be 4 New York Mets in the lineup, and a total of 5 overall, Sid Fernandez being the other, because the Mets have been the dominant team through the first half of the season and have a 13-game lead in the National League East. Now, the American League lineup again, Puckett with Henderson batting second, and then Boggs is starting in place of the injured George Brett, who had been elected by the fans. Parrish, Joyner, and Ripken. Winfield hits 7th, Whitaker, and Clemens. And for Dave, at least he knows he's in the starting lineup. He's not so sure when he plays with the Yankees. The umpires, Bruce Fremming in his 16th season calls the balls and strikes. Steve Palermo of the American League at first, Paul Runge of the National at second, Rick Reed, American third, Eric Gregg, the National League, down the left field line, and Tim McClelland of the American League is down the line and right. And so here we go with Dwight Gooden facing Kirby Puckett of the Minnesota Twins. And the All-Star game is underway with a bat. So Puckett starts things with a single to center. And how quickly the ascendancy for players begins as Puckett bounces one through the middle. Those two first faced each other in 1982 in the Appalachian League.
And Kirby Puckett, of course, a free swinger, the fastball down. Kirby has walked only 16 times this year. Unusual for a leadoff man, so you have an idea that ball actually hit the seam and bounced over the glove of Ozzie Smith. Play on that ball.
So Puckett at first base, and in just 4 years, Puckett facing Gooden in the Appalachian League, facing each other in the All-Star game as Ricky Henderson stands in. He goes after the first pitch. It's a bouncer down to Sandberg, and all they get is one. You're not going to double Henderson on a ground ball like that. Second. So they go after Gooden, and it will bring up Boggs.
And that's the big difference between Dwight Gooden in 1986 and 1985. Not striking out as many batters, not leading the National League in strikeouts. One of the other National League All-Star pitchers, Mike Scott, is. A lot of ground balls. He's got 2. One would have been an out, as Tim said, except it hit the dirt and came up. Otherwise, you have 2 ground balls and 2 outs. That is the difference between Dwight Gooden last year and this year.
Wade Boggs, who leads the majors in hitting, batting .363. Henderson almost got caught going the other way. Ricky has stolen 51 bases, and this isn't a bad combination to steal against. It's about the only negative thing you can say about Gooden and Carter.
As a matter of fact, of 16 tries, Gary Carter has thrown out only 3 with Dwight Gooden pitching.
Of course, the reason for that is that Dwight is 6'4", 6'5", elongated windup. Takes a little bit longer. And they say, and you're talking about a guy right here, Ricky Henderson in 1982 stole 130 bases. Once again, leading the American League in steals with 51.
Ball 1 to Wade Boggs.
Kind of an unusual, I think, ploy by Dick Hauser, manager of the American League, leading off with Kirby Puckett. A familiar role for him, but I think most experts would agree that Ricky Henderson, the best leadoff man in baseball.
Hauser asked about that, basically felt they were interchangeable. They did a lot of the same things, and that Henderson was perhaps better suited for the number 2 spot. And there is Dick Hauser, whose team is having its problems this year. And I don't have to tell you about the manager in the other dugout, Whitey Herzog, whose team is out of the race. And who would have believed that at the All-Star break?
Certainly not the St. Louis players. Not after the year they had last year.
And his spike's caught, and that's a balk, an automatic balk. And that's one of the few balks that you will actually see, because most are invisible.
Well, that's something that's very embarrassing, but invariably happens. And then again, this is, I think, something that Tim alluded to as you take another look at it. He's aware that Henderson's over there, the quick move, and he catches his spike. Looks like he caught his right foot. And the wise decision, because if he does throw the ball and it's an errant toss, you're talking about a runner at third base.
Henderson now at second with 1 out, and here's the 1-1 pitch, and it's 2-1. We've clocked Gooden at 96 miles per hour as you see Henderson of the Yankees take his lead at second. Boggs at the plate with Lance Parrish on deck. Breaking pitch. Those who don't watch Gooden think he's having a mediocre year. Tim, you see him pitch every day. How is he now compared to the way he was a year ago?
Well, I think that's one of the problems. Everybody is comparing him to a year ago when he was 24-4 and a 1.53.
Henderson goes, and it's fouled away. So Ricky got a good jump, was on his way to third, but retraces his steps.
And his expectation, not Ricky Henderson's, but Dwight Gooden's, I think everybody is viewing Dwight from his first 2 years. And after all, he's 10-4. Randy Neiman, who was sent down the other day, a pitcher on the Mets staff, said, I wish we could all struggle with a 10-4 record.
Falls into that everything is relative category. Keep in mind, too, he is still the youngest pitcher in the National League as Boggs fouls it away.
Matter of fact, he was the youngest player until the Reds recalled Kurt Stillwell last week when Davey Concepcion went on the DL.
Gooden also set a mark, you'll recall, 2 years ago by becoming the youngest All-Star performer ever at Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
All he did was strike out the side in the first inning.
Only hits, but walks a lot. Wade's on-base percentage is .468.
Well, something he does so well, hitting with 2 strikes last year, 240 base hits, over 180 singles, 124 of those hits came with 2 strikes, so it's a comfortable position. Maybe not as comfortable with a guy with a velocity of a 97-mile-per-hour fastball.
Smith sneaking in behind Henderson. As of last week, anyway, Boggs had not popped out this season.
He popped out only twice last season.
3-2 the count.
That's a perfect illustration of why he is such a disciplined hitter. Normally, hitters expand the strike zone. And I think a key to pitching for not only Dwight Gooden, but for years that I pitched, is try to get ahead of the hitters and have them expand the strike zone. Right there is a borderline pitch. Boggs says, you're going to have to throw me a strike.
So with Henderson at second, the 3-2 pitch is lifted in the air to left field, and it's Gwynn fading into the corner, has room, makes the catch. Henderson tags, but he's not going anywhere, and there are 2 down. Gooden gets Boggs, and now he faces Lance Parrish. Parrish was one of those he struck out when he struck out the side at Candlestick in his first inning of work in '84.
Pardon me, Al, that ball that Wade Boggs hit would have probably been a home run over the Green Monster in Boston at Fenway.
At least a double.
Yeah.
No cheapies in this part. The distances are honest, and the ball just does not carry very well here. Strike. 0-1.
Talking to Davey Johnson, who is coaching third base today for the National League, talking about the manager of the Mets, I asked him, really, what is the difference between Dwight Gooden? You pointed out the record, the expectation level. He said that he has just not been consistent within the strike zone. He throws strikes, but they're not, as we see a curveball just missed, they're not as quality-type pitches as they were in 1985.
And plus, you saw Wade Boggs lay off that high fastball. That's another thing. The National League hitters are not swinging at that pitch anymore. They're making him bring the ball down, and he's much more effective up than down.
1 ball, 1 strike. First inning with no score. Ricky Henderson, the runner at second. And Parrish pops it up. Ozzie Smith in front of second base makes the catch to retire the side. No run, a leadoff single by Puckett after a half. The American League nothing, and the National League coming up. Talks about the irony of starting tonight and not knowing if he'll start for the Yankees this coming Thursday.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. If I can play for this team, I could play for anybody. But what can I say? It's political. It's political. They should just put me in the lineup and let me play. There are no excuses about an average. I'm not really making any excuses. My productivity is there. The hustle is there. The contributions on the field and in the locker room are a very important part of the team. And when the players even question, why am I not playing, I really don't want to get into it. I assume that I will be in the starting lineup and just there for the rest of the year.
And for those of you who don't know, Winfield has not been starting recently against right-handers. He's involved in a long-distance feud with George Steinbrenner. Long-distance meaning not face-to-face, but through the media, as you look at the defensive alignment. And those were Winfield's remarks about the fact he's voted to the All-Star team, but doesn't know if he'll be in the lineup when the Yankees resume regular season play on Thursday.
Not exactly a one-dimensional player. Even if you're not hitting for an average, he can certainly win a lot of games for you with his glove and even his base running. Not only is it ridiculous, it's amazing.
Tony Gwynn, who leads the National League in hitting at .341, and he's already won a batting title, takes high for a ball. Roger Clemens on the mound. Clemens, who was born in Dayton, Ohio, grew up in this area, went to Springwoods High School. Hometown is Katy, Texas. And a man who somehow had to procure 50 tickets for friends and relatives. In there, and the count 1-1.
At the press luncheon yesterday, Roger said that in Boston, they said, how you doing? And down here, they say, how y'all doing? And that's the big difference in pitching in the Astrodome.
That's the dimensions.
Yeah, there's a bigger difference.
Fenway hasn't bothered him. Very few parks have. He was 14-0, then he lost to Toronto. Then he had his only real bad outing of the year last Monday night against Oakland, but he rebounded to beat the Angels Saturday. So he's working on a couple of days rest, and he throws a fastball by Gwynn. 2-2.
Pretty good idea right there, Al, is if you look at the dimensions here at the Astrodome. Right there, Tony Gwynn, as you said, leading the league, the National League in hitting, knows the fastball's coming, swings right through it. You don't see that very often.
In the gap toward left center field, but moving over is Henderson to make the play as the ball hangs. One left fielder flies out to the other for the first out of the first inning. Gwynn is gone, and that brings Ryne Sandberg to the plate. Most of the National Leaguers, those in the starting lineup, have been in slumps of late. Sandberg hitting .272, so for Ryne, not not a spectacular year by any stretch of the imagination, and a bad year, of course, for the Cubs and just about anybody else outside of the Mets and Montreal in the East. But Ryan, the MVP a couple of years back, and the fans remember. In there for a strike, 0-1. Clemens consistently in the mid-90s, 96 and up to 97 thus far on the gun. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Fouled away. Sandberg in the month of July, to illustrate the National League slump amongst the starters, is hitting 184. And the starting 8, minus Gooden through the month of July, is hitting just 239.
His slump mirrors that of the Cubs. Even when they do hit their home runs, usually nobody's on. They've struggled both offensively and defensively, and especially with their pitching. A lot of injuries.
Last year, all 5 Cubs starters were at one time or another on the DL. This year, more of the same.
And Bruce Fleming brings them up as Ryne Sandberg takes called strike 3. So the first strikeout of the All-Star game belongs
for yourself. Excuse me, Al. Rich Gedman talks about, and Lance Parrish receives this ball. Look where it is, right on the corner, 97 miles per hour. Tough to get the bat off your shoulder.
2 down, bases empty with no score. And now Keith Hernandez of the Mets. It's his 4th All-Star game, but his first start. And it's been difficult for just about any other first baseman outside of Steve Garvey to start for the National League over the past decade. In there, 0-1.
Keith, of course, all the way down from really hitting about a season high of 338. He's been in another prolonged slump. But again, another one of those more than one-dimensional, as we see the excellent curveball, can help you with a glove. He's won 8 straight Golden Gloves down at first base. You've seen him play just a little bit tired, not concentrating with the big lead the Mets have, Tim?
Well, he has a slow bat, but as you said, he can help you with the glove.
Ripped foul into the seats back at third. Still 0-2.
That's how the half inning started with the talking head of Dave Winfield. And Dave Winfield also can help you with the glove. The only thing is Winfield's hitting 70 points lower than Hernandez. The Yankees are trying to catch the Red Sox, and the Mets are comfortably 13 games ahead of the Expos. That's the reason Hernandez is playing and Winfield is playing sparingly the last 2 weeks.
Herzog, who can't believe what has happened to his team this season. And Whitey is the one manager who has lost an All-Star game for the National League in the last 14. Yep, he was there in '83 at Comiskey Park. As Hernandez is a chopper, Wally Joyner, the rookie from the Angels, flips to Clemens, and the National League is gone in order. So we've played 1 in Houston with no score. Just to show you graphically, pitches clocked at 95 plus in the first inning. Clemens airing it out 11 times, and Gooden a total of 8. And when you talk about airing it out, there's no better place to do it than in an All-Star game where you know you can't be on the mound for more than 3 innings.
I think the big tendency, Al, and I started 4 and pitched in 5, is that you have a tendency to overthrow. And it seems like Gooden, he threw a little bit harder when he got a runner in scoring position. Turned it up.
He faces Wally Joyner here. Wally Joyner, the first rookie to ever be elected a starter in the All-Star game by the fans. And, of course, it's the first time that rookies have been included on the ballot, so that obviously helped. But he got off to a sensational start, and he's the man who took Rod Carew's spot at first base for California and has become an instant sensation.
Second in home runs with 22nd in RBIs behind Canseco in both departments. He has 72 RBIs. What a nice stroke he had.
There is the man who figures to be in next for the National League, Fernando Valenzuela, starting to get loose with Gooden on the mound in the second inning.
I look at Wally Joyner and I think of Freddie Lynn back to 1975. Nice, sweet stroke. Of course, Wally, they pitched him a little differently. He went down and hitting well over 300 to 313, went down to 277, has only hit 1 home run. 25 games, so had 19 almost a month ago.
Popped up, then Ozzie Smith goes out with Gwynn coming in, and it's the Wizard making the catch. So Joyner is gone. One away, and Cal Ripken comes up.
Gives you an idea of Gooden's high fastballs. The last 3 batters for the American League have been retired on fly balls, all high fastballs.
For the All-Star game, as you see, the DH rule not in use. All starters except pitchers must play 3 innings unless you're injured. And if the last catcher becomes injured, the removed catcher may re-enter as Ripken takes low for a ball, 1-0. A model of consistency. Cal Ripken hitting .297. Consecutive game streak still alive. 690. Consecutive inning streak still alive. In there in the count, 1-1. As you look around the Astrodome, ironic in this game, you've got Dale Murphy in center for the National League, who came out of the lineup so they would take some of the pressure of that consecutive game streak off. He missed the game last week in Philadelphia, but Ripken keeps on rolling. Chopper in the count, 1-2. You talked to Cal about the streak, Jim. Is it a big thing with him? Does he want to continue?
Well, he just doesn't feel that. A lot of people feel that that playing every inning of every ball game is counterproductive. You get tired. He said, "What's an inning off here and there? I would just rather play every inning." And I don't really think it's hurt him. A lot of times you think he was a little bit tired this year, early in the year. I think a lot of people felt he played too many innings. In July, he's been up 47 times with 20 hits. So at a time when you think you need a rest, he's playing as well as you can play.
Curls foul. He sort of downplays it when he's interviewed about it, but I guess the longer it goes, the prouder you have to become.
Well, he's quite an athlete. He was an all-state soccer player. He's the type of basketball player that can two-hand jams over his head. I think most people look at him. And you take a look, he's almost 6'5", or maybe a little bit bigger than that, weighs about 225 pounds, and they said a guy that's that big and plays shortstop, a position you have to be very mobile at, he's got to get tired. Yeah, certainly you can't tell from his performance that he's tired.
Ozzie Smith's been a busy man, and Ozzie now has 3 putouts and 1 assist. Two down, bases empty, and now Dave Winfield down at 232. That's the lowest average amongst any of the starters. 13 homers and 56 runs batted in. And for Winfield, this is All-Star game number 10. 6 times in the American and 4 in the National while with San Diego. 1-0.
I think it was very interesting what he said about it's all political. Very proud man. Going back to 1984, they said he couldn't hit for an average. All he did was hit .340. That was after a year where he hit about 35 home runs in one of the toughest right-handed hitters park in baseball.
Of course, he was edged out on the last day of the season by Don Mattingly 2 years ago. Hey, they talk about the recession here in Houston, the oil and gas recession. Maybe Clemens and Gooden are the answers to that recession.
Turn up the
put some gas on in there tonight, I'll tell you.
Well, we were up in Boston a week ago and standing around in the lobby of the hotel, and a man said, I have 6 tickets, I need another 6. All I had to do is pay an extra $200 a ticket to see Clemens pitch. So obviously there's not a recession in Boston, at least not for this fellow.
No recession in the standings there either. No recession in the standings here. The Astros have surprised everyone by staying in the race. For the most part, they've been in first place for the first half of the season, though at the All-Star break, they trailed the Giants by 1. 1-2 to Winfield. Is hit into the right field corner, and it's a fair ball, and Strawberry gets it back in as Winfield pulls in at second with a double. Hit number 2 for the American League.
One of the reasons that Dave Winfield can hit for a high average
average at Yankee Stadium is he does use the right side of the field. One of those guys that Kurt Flood used to talk about, spray hitter with power. He is that.
Sprays them over the fence.
That's right.
Well, you talked about the high fastball that Gooden been throwing, and there is really not too many better high fastball hitters than Dave Winfield, especially fastball. Just throw it up there straight, and he's going to have a home run swing, and that was one of them.
If ever there's a chance to pitch around somebody, this is it. All-Star game, number 8 hitter and first base open. Chopper foul, and the count 0-1.
That's an intelligent move right there by Lou Whitaker. He knows, with Roger Clemens on deck, that he might see a breaking ball, no doubt. And you saw an excellent curveball from Gooden. He's looking for that pitch. Now, the problem is that Gooden's curveball is as good as his fastball.
Whitfield at second with 2 down, and the 0-1 to Whitaker is a fastball foul back. 0-2 on the Tigers' second baseman, who's making his third All-Star start in a row. Hit 21 homers last year, and you might recall in Minnesota last year, he forgot to bring his uniform, left it in the trunk of his car. They had to buy one at a souvenir stand, and with a marking pencil, mark in his number 1. As Whitaker hits it high in the air to deep right field, and Strawberry looks up. This one is gone. Lou Whitaker being serenaded with a chorus of Lou's, as is the case in Detroit, who has hit 3 home runs in his last 5 regular season games. Makes it 2-0.
Gooden gets the curveball up in the strike zone. 0-2. You want to get it down. Belled high. Second time he's seen that pitch, and he gets all of it. And you have to do that here in the Astrodome. No cheapies, as we talked about earlier.
So a 2-out, a double by Winfield, a homer by Whitaker, and now Clemens chops it foul. And so much for pitching around Lou Whitaker as you look at his wife and kids.
Sauter said, "I'm glad." I guess so.
Yeah.
So is Dick Hauser and the whole American League bench.
All right.
Receptive young daughter.
And you might think about why he didn't pitch around Lou Whitaker, but one of the reasons is he got a quick strike on him, and then you kind of can that theory about pitching around the guy. Once you get that quick strike on him, and then he fouls the other one back, he's 0-2 in the hole. So you say, I'm going right after him. Curveball up just a little, and why is an all-star?
He gets Clemens, but a little late. After the homer by Whitaker, the American League leads 2-0. Mark the Bird Fidrich exploded onto the baseball scene and was named the American League starting pitcher in 1976, his rookie year. Today he builds swimming pools with a friend near his home in Northborough, Massachusetts. A reminder, Monday Night Baseball resuming this coming Monday. 2 games for you, so check your local listings. The Mets go to Cincinnati to take on the resurging Reds, and the Giants, maybe the biggest surprise of all this year, against the Cardinals in St. Louis at 8 Eastern Time next Monday. Lou Whitaker's home run has made it 2-0 American League as we go to the bottom of the 2nd inning in the 57th All-Star game, and Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and Mike Schmidt to face Roger Clemens. Carter fouling it away. You've noticed that the National League has Hernandez, Carter, and Strawberry batting 3, 4, 5. It's the first time any All-Star team has had 3 men from the same team hit in those slots since 1960. As you can see it right there, Maris, Mantle, and Skowron of the Yankees. As Carter hits a fly ball to center field, and Kirby Puckett comes in to make the play. And then for emphasis back in 1960, Yogi Berra hit 6th.
So you saw Kirby Puckett right there. One of the most difficult things in the Astrodome is to sometimes follow a fly ball. Go back the first time they ever played here in 1965. We played the first day game. The Orioles came down here along the Yankees, and we won 12-9. Booth Powell played left field. We won the game because we hit more fly balls.
Mickey Mantle hit the first home run that day, right?
Well, the night before on Friday night, line drive into the center field seats are up to shoot.
On the subject of home runs, Strawberry hit a shot yesterday that had to be seen to be believed in the home run hitting contest as part of the pre-All-Star workout. He fouls it away. He hit a speaker in deepest, darkest right center field. And if he does that during the game, it's in play. There it is. And as we pull back, that's how far that ball traveled. A monstrous shot. And he's only the second man to have done it in the Astrodome. The other was Mike Schmidt back in '74 in a game, and it wound up as a single. Good fastball. Clemens has retired the 5 men he's faced. That's his second strikeout. And speaking of Schmidt, he comes up next.
Well, Clemens doesn't throw very many bad fastballs. You look where Lance Parrish is sitting, look where the ball ends up. That's one of the reasons for his success. 97 miles per hour, and more times than not, he hits the glove.
And again, it was a fastball that was up in the strike zone. Both of these fine young pitchers, high ball pitchers. Unless, of course, they throw the breaking ball. That high gas, it's tough to catch up with it. And as we said, one of the reasons that Gooden has not been as successful this year, he's been getting the ball down.
Clemens throwing it by Schmidt in the count 0-1. Schmidt hit 2 home runs in this park Sunday to lead the Phillies to a win over the Astros, and then took the day off from the workout yesterday and played golf. Fly ball to center field, deep, but there's a lot of room here, and that's Kirby Puckett making the catch. So 6 up and 6 down for Clemens. Still 2-0 American League, end of 2. Third inning, Kirby Puckett leads things off for the American League. Then Ricky Henderson and Wade Boggs. The Americans on top 2-0 as Puckett fouls it back. And the count on Kirby is 0-2. Puckett, in his first 2 big league seasons, hit a total of 4 homers. None his first year, 4 his second, and already 16 midway this year.
Well, they made a change, moved him up on the plate. You can see him on top of the plate. And I think the pitchers have adjusted now, because early in the year he was, as we look at 2 old-timers, Vice President George Bush on your right and Rusty Staub.
Staub is the honorary captain and one of the original Houston Colt 45 as he dons the replica of a uniform. And Don Drysdale is with us tonight. He'll be talking with the Vice President in the next half inning. Puckett fouling it away, 1-2, with Henderson waiting on deck. And then Boggs to follow. And Fernando Valenzuela, who will follow Gooden, loosens up in the bullpen. Puckett with a shot at a batting title this year. Boggs leads the league in hitting. Mattingly is second. And then Kirby third at .338.
Well, he came up as basically a contact hitter, just tried to hit it down on the turf in Minnesota. This year, Oliva did change him. And if you look at his build, you can see that he can hit the ball a long way.
3-2 the count.
The thing about this All-Star team, or this All-Star game, it has a lot of players that are so well-rounded, good defensively, good offensively. Kirby Puckett, for instance. Take a look at Gooden. Kirby Puckett led the American League in assists 2 years ago, second last year.
To shallow right field, and it's Strawberry putting it away.
Well-rounded on both ends. A lot of gold gloves, a lot of consecutive games played as far as Ripken is concerned. A lot of strikeouts for that man right there.
Update on the speed comparison. Gooden has now thrown 27 at 95 plus. He's also thrown a lot more pitches than Clemens, who's retired the 6 men he has faced. Henderson, who bounced into a force. Good curve for a strike. And if you're not used to seeing Gooden, I guess that's easy to do. You bend back, and the pitch breaks over. I guess it's easy to do if you've seen him 100 times.
Well, again, I think from all the media, the big question, what's the difference between Dwight Gooden and Roger Clemens? And we've seen tonight they both throw with the same velocity, just right around 96, 97 miles per hour. I think over a course of a season, at least looking at Dwight Gooden last year and the year before, has the better of the curveballs. Tonight, you couldn't tell a difference. Both of them, with the exception of the hanging curveball to Whitaker, both of them had an excellent curveball. Clemens, of course, has a slider and a changeup, even though Dwight throws a changeup. He's in a situation, again, what you said, expectation. If he throws a changeup and gets hurt with it, people are saying he's not using his best pitch.
Half swing, and Henderson commits himself. And that's that for Ricky.
Here's the fastball tight to Henderson. And after two curveballs, that fastball looks like it was thrown about 200 miles an hour. That's why you get a check swing in that situation.
2 down, and Wade Boggs, who flied to left to deep left in the first inning. Justice is served in a way, and there is Tom Lasorda, the manager of the Dodgers and one of Whitey Herzog's coaches, looking on from the National League dugout. George Brett was voted the starter at third, and Brett, after a very slow start, has really picked it up, but George has a bad shoulder, so he can't play tonight. And Boggs, having a great season, rightfully gets a spot in the lineup and is inserted into the 3-hole.
Another example of one of those players that was somewhat one-dimensional when he came up. He's learned how to run, moved up by running on his toes, become a much better defensive third baseman. Will eventually hit more home runs.
A look at George Brett in uniform, though unable to play tonight.
Strained rotator cuff.
Boggs toward the middle. Sandberg knocks it down, recovers, throws, but doesn't get him. So Boggs gets aboard. Sandberg making a nice play to get there, but unable to hold on, and Boggs is safe with 2 down, and Parrish coming up.
What an infielder tries to do when he backhands the ball whenever he has to go to his right. Tries to catch the ball in the webbing, and that ball hit the heel of the glove of Sandberg. He actually went too far, and that's why the ball just popped out and no chance to get by.
And they've given him an error. Pretty tough call.
Undoubtedly, the scorer never played on AstroTurf. The ball, a lot of people say the ball picks up speed. I don't think it picks up speed. That's probably physically impossible. But what it doesn't do is slow down. A lot of times that second hop is just as fast as the first hop there. The first hop is get a lot of overspin on it.
Parrish hits a fly ball to Murphy, and that's that. So Sandberg's error means nothing, and at the end of 2.5, the American League 2, the National League nothing. All right, thank you, Don, as Dale Murphy starts things off for the National League in the bottom of the third. 2-0, the Americans on top as Murphy hits it to the hole, backhanded by Ripken. Plants, throws, and gets him. Cal Ripken. Well, you know about his bat, but for those of you who don't watch him play a lot, even though it's a disputed call at first, take a look at his arm.
We talked earlier about his mobility. You get a chance to see it here. Playing up the middle makes this play a little more difficult. Now you get to see the arm. As good as anybody's in baseball when he needs it. And he needs it right here. Joyner with the tag.
Clemens has now set down the 70s face, and Ozzie Smith of the Cardinals takes high, ball 1.
Going back to what we talked about earlier, Al, they talked about Cal Ripken, and they said, you know, how can you play shortstop when you're that big? You can't have good range. We saw the arm right there. He said, if you know how to play the hitters, you can be a good shortstop.
Whitaker throws Smith out, and Clemens is now 1 batter away from 3 perfect innings, and Kevin Bass of the Houston Astros comes up to bat for good.
And what a marvelous year Kevin Bass is having. Last year, 16 home runs, 13 already. Made himself into a much better left-handed hitter.
He's a man who in spring training really didn't know exactly where he fit into the lineup. In a way, some regarded him as the 4th outfielder. Instead, he winds up as the 4th Astro on the All-Star team and goes after the first pitch and hits it down to Whitaker, and Roger Clemens in his hometown pitches pitches 3 perfect innings. And at the end of 3, it's the American League 2 and the National League nothing. Well, here comes Fernando Valenzuela of the Los Angeles Dodgers, 11-6, a 301 earned run average. So Fernando on a pace to win 20 or close to that figure in what's been a real rough year for the Dodgers, especially injury-wise. Meanwhile, 3 perfect innings. Jim Bunning, our colleague Don Drysdale, Spahn, and Bunning again, and Denny McLain. Steve Stone did it in 1980, and Roger Clemens joins that select list tonight. 9 up, 9 down, and hats off to you, Roger, with a 2-0 lead. Don Mattingly, meanwhile, comes up to pinch hit here in the 4th inning. He'll bat for Wally Joyner and then stay in the game. Joyner came up once and popped out in the 2nd. So last year's American League MVP facing Valenzuela and taking a strike. Ripken due up next, and then Winfield. And what you'll see from here on out, not only pitching changes, but a lot of other position changes in pinch hitters.
And there's a great story about Don Mattingly, who's not using his bat. He is using the bat of Mike Fishland, the utility infielder for the New York Yankees. Mike asked him, he said, I'll probably never get to an all-star game, but will you at least use my bat? So he's using Fishland's bat.
Probably. Teddy Higuera. Right, I guess there is. Teddy Higuera, sorry, Mike, in the American League bullpen as Mattingly fouls it away. But Fishland's got a good enough sense of humor to understand, I would think.
It's going to take a tremendous rash of injuries.
Right.
I tell you, what a front runner, though. He couldn't have picked a better guy to let him use his bat.
He's already won a batting championship. He's already won an MVP award.
341 this year, as you see him fish after the blown away changeup. Screwball.
And that's a posture that many have taken against Fernando Valenzuela.
Well, he's got so many pitches. You see the screwball right here. He's got a fastball he can spot. You see Mattingly out on his front foot. Something that's not easy to do if you're a pitcher. Try to induce him to take that bat a swing. We said he's hitting 341, can hit with power. 2 years ago, 140 over 140 RBIs. Quite a hitter and made him look bad.
Fastball to Ripken taken for a strike. Fernando, 6 years in the big leagues and 6 times on the All-Star team.
And never won 20 games, and that's the amazing thing. 11-6 on a team that's 40-48. 8 games under 500, that hasn't caught the ball very well, hasn't scored a whole lot of runs. As a matter of fact, if you take these 2 pitching staffs, and I believe I'm correct when I say this, there's only one guy that's won 20 games, and that's Dwight Gooden last season.
24-4.
So as you said, there is a changing of the guard.
Very much so, and very much typified by the pitchers, by the young players, accentuated too by Joyner's selection as the first rookie. 2-1 the count on Ripken.
One of the reasons for Valenzuela's success also, he'll throw any pitch on any count. He's got several different kinds of screwballs, curveball and a fastball away.
Scroogie there, and the count 2-2.
And he'll also, as you saw with Mattingly, throw the screwball to the left-handed hitter, and that's what also makes him stand head and shoulders above most left-handers that throw screwball. Most of them won't throw it to a left-hander.
Mike Cuellar, for years, pitched with him with the Orioles, would not throw it. It just was not effective. It comes into the left-hander. But when you have a control that Fernando has, you can throw it almost any time. Anywhere to any hitter, and he does it.
3-2 the count. One of the National League coaches is Davey Johnson, whose New York Mets are in very comfortable shape in the National League East, leading by 13 at the break. In there, strike 3. Gene Speed turned it over enough, and So Fernando, and you saw the graphic, he struck out in succession Winfield, Reggie Jackson, and Brett at 84, has got Mattingly and Ripken here.
Well, you can see, as you said, Tim said, the quality of the screwball. That's almost right in the middle of the plate, yet he's totally full. Don't know where to look for the fastball or the curveball or the screwball.
And you also saw two types of screwballs, the screwball on the outside corner on the 2-1 pitch, and then he struck him out with the screwball inside.
Now Jesse Barfield of the Toronto Blue Jays bats for Winfield and takes a strike. Blue Jays have struggled, so Barfield hasn't gotten some of the acclaim that he deserves. 21 homers and 65 RBIs to go with his 296 mark. In what has to be considered the best overall outfield in baseball, as you've got Barfield, Lloyd Mosby, who's also here, and you could certainly make a case for the left fielder George Bell having been named to the team, but there's just so much room. 1-2.
Here's one area that I thought Jesse Barfield would excel a little bit more is in base stealing. Only 3 this year. Of course, Mosby makes up for it. An excellent base stealer and center fielder up in Toronto. But you don't take extra bases. These guys can throw, they can get to the ball, and hit with power.
And he has struck out the side. Fernando sets him down at the end of 3.5. Still 2-0 America.
National League starter Dwight Gooden with us, and Dwight, the curveball up to Lou Whitaker, and that's all it took.
That's all it took, and that's been my problem all year. Just that one mistake pitch and been taken out of the game. And for the second half, I hope I can learn from that.
What about pitching here in the Astrodome? Do you like it?
Yeah, I love pitching here. It's a pitcher's ballpark, and they got a nice high mound, and that helps the curveball.
The New York Mets going into the break, 13 ahead. What do you do to keep up the good things that are going to with you now?
Well, things have been going great. I hope the 3-day layoff ain't hurt nothing, but we just got to stay good and keep everybody healthy and taking a game at a time and keep playing the way we played the first half.
Roger Clemens was here just a moment ago, and you told me that you weren't too thrilled going against him.
No, if it was my turn to hit, I didn't want to face him at all.
Okay, pitcher's thoughts, and right now let's go back up to Al Michaels.
All right, thank you, Don. As Tony Gwynn leads off, and Teddy Higuera is on the pitch. Higuera from the Milwaukee Brewers. And it means right now you have 2 Mexican-born left-handers pitching in the All-Star game. Valenzuela and Higuera with a mark of 10-7. Gwynn fouling it away. 1-1.
Ernie Banks used to say, good day for 2. And, of course, tonight, a good night for 2. There are 2 Smiths in the game, 2 Hernandez, 2 Fernandez, and also 2 Valenzuelas. Fernando and Teddy Valenzuela Higuera. That was his idol growing up in Mexico, Fernando. Picked the right guy, didn't he?
Teddy might be Fernando's idol one of these days. Higuera has pitched some gems already in his brief career.
Well, that he has. He had 5 pitches last year, and Herm Surratt, pitching coach up in Milwaukee, got him down to 3. A little changeup he turns over. He throws a little bit harder than Fernando, and he has a kind of a slider curveball, which they call a slurve, which you saw right there.
3-2. Meanwhile, Mattingly stays in the game at first base, and Barfield stays in the game in right field. Mattingly hitting 5th, and Barfield hitting 7th. 3-2 the count. Nobody out. Bottom of the 4th, and a breaking pitch is over. Strike 3. And so the National League has sent 10 men to the plate with nary a base runner.
Something you don't see very often, a called 3rd strike. We talked about Valenzuela throwing any pitch any time. Gwynn fouled off about 4 or 5 fastballs, and then all of a sudden 3-2. Curveball on the inside part of the plate froze him.
Ryne Sandberg struck out in the first inning. Clemens, with 3 perfect innings, had 2 strikeouts. He got Sandberg in the first, and he got Strawberry in the second. The scoring, Winfield a 2-out right field double in the second, and then Whitaker a home run after Gooden had gotten ahead 0-2. 1-1 the count.
This game really all the characteristics of the game played here in 1968.
It wound up 1-0, the only 1-0 game in history, All-Star history, as Sandberg hits a fly ball to shallow left, and Ricky Henderson takes charge. Henderson used to playing center, but knows what it's like to play left, because that's where he played as an A with Murphy in center for so many years.
Won a Gold Glove back in 1981, and he plays center field up in New York now for the Yankees, but I think his best position is left field. I've never seen anybody play it as well.
Keith Hernandez at the plate. Well, it figured, as Tim said, to be a low-scoring game. It's a prototypical Astrodome game in a way, even though we've had the home run by Whitaker. Certainly from the American League pitching standpoint, a typical Astrodome encounter. And this will make 4 perfect innings as Puckett takes care of Hernandez. At the end of 4 quick ones, the Americans lead 2-0.
Roger, of course, 15-2, everything going right for you right here at home, Katy, Texas. It's another page in the history of Roger Clemens this year.
Well, it has been. It's been like a fantasy camp this year, and the Red Sox are playing well, and I'm pitching pretty good so far this season. Right now, I'm just looking down the road, getting ready for a second half, but, this was a big day for me, and a lot of family was here to see it, so I'm very happy.
And, of course, the Red Sox, as you mentioned, on top, you've got to feel as though that you can be there to stay. You are for real this year.
Well, I think we are. We got a lot of young guys, and we got a few pitchers that need to come off the disabled list to help us out in the second half, but hopefully we'll get rolling and just keep on rolling.
Roger, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back upstairs to Al Michaels.
All right, Don. Whitaker comes up, and it's Lou who's the difference in this one right now. 2 out, Winfield at second inning, to deep right field and out of here. Into the seats for Whitaker, who has 12 during the regular season. And we mentioned 3 homers in his last 5 games last week. And the difference in tonight's encounter with the Americans on top 2-0 in the 5th. Whitaker and then Teddy Higuera to come up next, the pitcher, followed by Kirby Puckett. Fernando Valenzuela, who struck the side out in the 4th inning, deals 1-1, and it's 1-2. And Fernando's wife, Linda, amongst those here at the Dome tonight. Fernando and Steve Sachs representing the Dodgers in the All-Star game. In there, strike 3, and so Valenzuela, who struck out the side in 84, and it's worth noting again, he got Winfield, Jackson, and Brett, has now taken care of Mattingly, Ripken, Barfield, and Whitaker.
I tell you, shades of Carl Hubble back in 1934. He struck out 5 in a row to lead off the game. Not too shabby of hitters that he got.
Now it figures Higuera would break the string, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
0-1.
I think he was hoping that Lou Whitaker got a hit so he could bunt.
Well, one countryman faces the other, and he would tie Carl Hubble's mark here with another strike.
All you have is Babe Ruth, and then you had Lou Gehrig, and then Jimmy Fox, and then Al Simmons and Joe Cronin. Of course, at the time, you think they thought it was that great a thing?
Well, Higuera's made a little history thanks to Valenzuela. So Fernando has struck out the 5 he's faced, and now Kirby Puckett comes up. Remember when he first came up in 80, he looked so overweight, and his mannerisms were so unusual, and everybody said he's a flash in the pan.
And Valenzuela wouldn't have had a chance to start were it not for an injury to Jerry Royce, opening day.
Grounded to Smith, and it breaks the string of strikeouts. The 2 perfect innings for Fernando. American League 2, National League nothing. The All-Star game in Houston. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, Don Drysdale. 4.5 innings gone. The American League leading 2-0, and Gary Carter to lead things off against Milwaukee's Teddy Higuera in the bottom of the 5th. Carter flied out his first trip and takes outside. 1-0. There's Fernando, who's faced 6, retired all, and struck out 5. Looking for a bat, hopeful he'll get up. He's a good hitter, but chances are slim they'll get to his spot.
He hit 3 home runs one year. we talked about the dimensions of this park. It used to be the best pitching park in the National League. Now it's about the third best. They brought the fences in just about really 10 to 12 to 6 feet around, depending which part of the park you go to. But also, I think another thing as a former pitcher is that, again, you look at Fernando, obviously the pressure doesn't bother him, nor does the American League hitters. Look at
Carter grounds it to third, where Boggs picks it up, and that's 13 up and 13 down for the National League. And it shades of 1980 when the game was played in L.A. The first 14 National Leaguers went out in order, and then Ken Griffey hit a two-run homer, or hit a homer, off Tommy John, a bases empty homer, and the National League went on to win the game 4-2.
You just saw one of the differences in a third baseman playing on natural surface and artificial surface. You saw Boggs' first step to his right, and then he adjusted back to his left. Ball gets on you in a hurry on the artificial surface, of course.
1-0 the count on Strawberry, who rips it to right field, and Barfield has to play it on a hop, and so the National League finally gets a base runner.
Throw Darryl Strawberry a breaking ball, you speed up his bat a little bit. See the long arms, the extension, and then you see the top spin. Barfield's first step is really to his right and then in. Ball with a lot of top spin falls right below him. Jesse Barfield, an awfully good outfielder. That play can be made, he's usually going to make it.
Mike Schmidt fly to center in the second inning. League plays him straight away, and he lays off a high fastball. 1-0 the count.
Schmidt, of course, off a hot game on Sunday. He had 2 home runs in this ballpark for the Phillies.
Playing at first base and saved the game with a diving stab to thwart a Houston rally. Pretty good idea, Teddy Aguirre. That is not a lightweight. In 137 innings, he struck out 115 batters. Fastball over 90 miles per hour.
Jim, we were talking about it between innings. He throws like Valenzuela. Maybe a little harder. He is very, very impressive. First time I've ever seen him pitch.
And if you talk to the American League hitters, they say he paints. In other words, he's on the corners. Excellent control to go with really overpowering stuff. And really a thought that I was trying to get to earlier was that you take a look at the mound. Part of a characteristic of a good pitching ballpark is the pitching mound. Very high mound here, good fall. You can get away with a lot more high fastballs on that kind of mound, and we've seen those all night.
3-1 now on Schmidt.
A very important thing, though, right here, Tim, is that, as we said earlier, you have a tendency to overthrow, and you're looking at a guy named Mike Schmidt who has 477 lifetime home runs.
He's got Dale Murphy on deck. That's the one thing about the All-Star game. You got somebody on deck just as potent as the guy with the stick in his hand.
And Schmidt is on. So the National League with its first semblance of a rally as Strawberry goes to second. Schmidt is at first with 1 down, and here is Murphy, having an off year for him. 273 average and 36 RBIs at the break.
Coming off a shoulder injury to his right shoulder, and the story we heard, he was only going to play 3 innings, and I guess this is what you talk about, the spirit of the National League players. Once the game starts, you don't want to come out.
And also one of the reasons that he played in 740 consecutive games. He, by the way, told me on the plane down here to Houston from New York that Ted Simmons had a lot to do with his deciding not to play last Wednesday in Philadelphia. Set him down in the locker, and he said, "You're the one who has to make this decision. How long do you want to keep it up?" Ted Simmons, of course, the veteran catcher who came to the Atlanta Braves from the Milwaukee Brewers this spring.
Ball to center, and an easy play for Kirby Puckett. Strawberry's tagging but not going anywhere, and there are 2 down. So Darrell is still at second, and Mike Schmidt is at first, and with 2 away, Ozzie Smith is due up, but righty will look for the 3-run homer, and he'll send U.B. Brooks of the Montreal Expos to the plate. And then Brooks will stay in the game at shortstop.
An interesting thing about the 3-run home run, Al, you have to go all the way back to 1964. Johnny Callison, last time the National League ever hit a 3-run home run. So they have won without the Earl Weaver 3-run home run, so to speak. As we said, 21 out of the last 23 ball games. And here's a guy very capable of hitting a home run, even though he's coming off a thumb injury and has not hit a home run in a long time.
Well, U.B. Brooks went to Montreal in the Gary Carter deal, and neither team, I would imagine, would turn that one down. Carter's been a lot to the Mets, and they have no gripes when they look at the standings. And the Expos, among others, picking up U.B. Brooks, who has developed into one of the premier shortstops in baseball.
Also in that trade, Floyd Yeomans, a fine young right-handed pitcher, Herm Winningham, and Mike Fitzgerald, and all are on the 24-man roster.
Brooks, all of a sudden, has developed into an adequate shortstop and a fine hitter and a guy with a lot of punch.
Especially with 2 outs. He is one of the most notorious 2-out RBI men in the National League.
And that's the situation right here with 2 out and 2 on, and the American League leading 2-0.
The big advantage, though, from pitching a lot of all-star games is that if you can throw strikes, and Aguirre has done that most of the time with only the 1 walk to Schmidt, U.B. Brooks doesn't know how you throw. Chances are he has not seen him. I always felt the pitcher had an advantage. And I pitched against Aaron and Mays and Stargell and McCovey. And when I ran into problems is when I couldn't get the ball over the plate. Or when I got behind. And I go back to 1977 where I served up 3 long ones at Yankee Stadium.
1-2 to Brooks is a fastball high, 2-2. Valenzuela would be due up next, but wouldn't hit. And Glenn Davis of the Astros is out on deck if Brooks keeps the inning going. There's Glenn. Brooks hits it off the hands down to second, and Whitaker throws to Mattingly to retire the side. So the Nationals' first rally is squelched. It's still 2-0 going to the 6th.
From across the Atlantic comes one of the world's premier golf championships, the British Open, live on ABC Sports this weekend.
A little reminiscing before we go to the 6th inning. Tim McCarver, you played in the All-Star games in 66 and 67. How'd you do?
Well, I did all right. I was on 2 winners, and both of those games were extra inning games, both won by the National League. As a matter of fact, in 67, the longest game, 15 innings ever in All-Star history.
How did you do personally?
Oh, I went 3 for 3. I've got it right. Oh, shucks. You really had to pull that out of me, didn't you?
And Palmer, your greatest thrill was what? Giving up those 3 home runs?
No, I was actually warming up to go in the game in 1971, being on a winning team and watching as I was warming up in the bullpen in Detroit, Reggie Jackson's home run off the transformer. Total silence in the ballpark as everybody else watched it too. Boy, what a smash that was.
Looked like a golf ball. As Ricky Henderson starts things in the 6th inning, Henderson has grounded out and struck out. He'll be followed by Boggs and Parrish, and a couple of changes for the National League as it's fouled straight back. For the National League, the new third baseman is Chris Brown of the San Francisco Giants, and the new right fielder, Dave Parker of the Cincinnati Reds. Parker bats 5th and Brown bats 6th as Henderson takes his strike.
You just wouldn't bite for that overly humble shot, would you?
Were they 3 solid hits?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They are now. I'll tell you that.
2-2. The other change for the National League is that Brooks stays in the game. He is now playing shortstop with Ozzie Smith out. Little looper, back of third. Brown is calling, but he's waved away by Brooks, and there's one away. So Henderson is now 0 for 3, and Wade Boggs will be coming to the plate. A reminder, ABC's Wide World of Sports. There are the times at the bottom of the screen Saturday featuring the World Ice spectacular, including Torval and Dean making an appearance, and the Harlem Globetrotters. And the week after, Mike Tyson back in action. The heavyweight takes on Marvis Frazier, and Barry McGuigan in the rematch with Steve Cruz. Wade Boggs looks at a strike. Boggs has flied to left and reached on an error. It's softly in the center for a base hit, so Boggs is on, and it will bring up Parrish. I think I mentioned rematch of McGuigan and Cruz, which is news to those guys. What we'll have for you is the tape of their recent fight.
Well, so predictable here. Boggs with a lifetime batting average over 325. He's 0 for 2. You know he's going to get a hit. Just fights it off. Good pitch by Valenzuela, but Boggs won the war. Just fisted it into center field.
What was that amazing stat last year with the count 0-2? After that, Boggs hit 390 on the year.
And lifetime, he's over 400 against right-handed pitching at home at Fenway Park. Boggs at first with one away, and Parrish at the plate. Little half swing, shallow fly ball, and it hangs for Murphy for the out. 2 down, and we'll see Mattingly. One other thing worth mentioning about Boggs, for those of you who don't really follow the game, he's having a great year, and he's doing it under extreme duress. Wade is the fellow whose mother was tragically killed in an auto accident about a month ago. So he was gone for a week, and he's been able to come back, and we talked to him in Boston last week, and he says, hey, this is the best thing. Play baseball every day. So he's a man carrying quite a burden magnificently. Mattingly now, who pinch hit for Joyner and struck out in the 4th inning. He does not allow a run, that'll make 7 2/3 innings in his All-Star career without allowing a run. One and one.
The basic problem is I pitched my first 9 innings, didn't give up any runs, and then that's when the problem started. I got older, and the lineups got better.
1 and 2.
Don Mattingly, who I think in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago was voted the #1 player by his peers, a poll of I think about 419 players, said what he wants to do is you take another look at a screwball way out in front again, pitch he struck out on last time. Said he wants to improve every time, every year he plays the game of baseball.
To Sandberg, and the inning is over. And at the end of 5.5 in the Astrodome, on Whitaker's homer, it's 2-0 American League.
IBM presents You Make the Call. A batter hits a sinking line drive that bounces directly off a fielder's leg. The ball then goes straight up in the air before coming down in the fielder's glove. Is the batter out? You make the call. A batter is considered out if a ball is caught before it touches the ground, even if it hits off a fielder's body first. So if you said the batter was out, then you made the right call.
Bob Feller, now 67 years old, the longtime ace of the Cleveland Indians, and still pitching. He tours the country for charity, visiting minor league ballparks like this one in Peoria, Illinois. And for a donation, you can take your cuts against the Hall of Famer. Coming up this weekend, the British Open. Saturday, 3rd round action beginning at noon Eastern, and then Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Final round from Turnberry. The British Open this weekend on ABC. Tim Raines of the Montreal Expos will pinch hit for Fernando Valenzuela, who worked 3 innings, allowed no runs, 1 hit, and struck out 5, and those were in succession to tie an All-Star game record. And now Tim Raines, having a great season at .333, 41 steals, and he's been caught only 4 times. And really on the verge now of emerging as a true superstar, a guy who's been around long enough And he's just about been consistent enough and finally beginning to get his due as it's fouled away.
The most amazing tribute, plays in Montreal, doesn't have the exposure a lot of American teams, yet over 900,000 votes in the All-Star, so the fans are aware of him. You said a switch hitter, hit .320 last season. Amazing base stealer for not only the amount of bases, but percentage, which is the most important thing.
Straightaway center field, and Kirby Puckett is right there, tapping his glove. One away. It's 5 putouts for the Twin center fielder as Raines is gone, and Tony Gwynn of the Padres, who's 0 for 2, comes up. One change for the American League. Lloyd Mosby is in the game now. Mosby of the Blue Jays in left field as Ricky Henderson is finished for the night. Gwynn fouls it away. 0-1. Teddy Higuera of Milwaukee in relief of Roger Clemens, who was perfect. If you joined us late, the only scoring in the second inning. Dave Winfield with 2 out, double to right, off Dwight Gooden, and then Lou Whitaker with first base open, the number 8 hitter. Hit one into the seats in right field, and that's been it. 2-0 American League.
An interesting thought earlier, George Brett, you talked about the fact that he was voted to the team, but because of the rotator cuff injury is not playing. When asked to explain why the National League always wins, or at least 21 out of 23 times,
as Gwynn grounds to Mattingly for the out,
he's just talked basically that every time the National League has been given a chance to win the ball game, they've taken advantage of it. Tonight, not too many opportunities so far.
I mean, they have been shut down. Roger Clemens and now Teddy Higuera. They have not had a lot of good pitches to hit. And this is not a bad lineup that Higuera and Clemens is facing. Obviously.
Ryan Sandberg struck out fly to left.
Of course, the guy they're going to be facing for the American League in the 7th is Charlie Huff, the knuckleballer.
So they go from Clemens through Higuera to Huff.
3 totally different pitchers.
Sandberg fouls it away. We talked earlier about the fact that the National League All-Stars, as a starting unit anyway, in a pretty good collective slump in the month of July, and it's continued tonight.
You're looking at a guy that could put you into a slump. Done that to a lot of American League hitters. Again, Tim, we really haven't gotten a radar reading, but Clemens was around 97. I know on Milwaukee's radar gun, which is one of those slow guns, which is 3 to 5 miles per hour, a little slower than the normal Jugs gun. I know they don't like you to say that. He's right around 90 miles per hour, so he gets it up there in a hurry.
1-2. And Charlie Huff, at the age of 38, his first All-Star appearance coming up.
We are told, Jim, that Higuera has thrown the ball 91, 92 miles an hour. With that, too.
Sandberg gone, so is the National League. And at the end of 6, it's still 2-0 Americans.
I think along the same lines with Fernando Valenzuela. 5 strikeouts in a row, and Fernando, congratulations. Different names in that order, the last one being Teddy Higuera, but it's still there.
Yeah, I'm very happy for the record, you know, because I know everybody knows who is Carl Howell, great star, and I'm very happy for Tyler's record.
And, of course, you got the bat right here. You couldn't convince Whitey Herzog that you wanted to hit.
No. You know, but I think we have a lot of real hitters, you know, and it's because pinch hit for me. I threw 3 innings. I think it's okay.
Fernando, congratulations.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's go back to Al Michaels.
All right, Don. You got to love Fernando as you look at Mike Scott. Bat in hand. The other night he was a pinch hitter. Went from first to third on a nice base running play, but then tired himself out to the point where Oral Hershiser had to go in to run for him. Mike Scott, who leads the majors in strikeouts, starts the 7th inning with a fastball to Cal Ripken that's hit foul toward the bullpen, and Hernandez runs out of room. Other changes for the National League here. Raines stays in the game in left field, and Chili Davis is in center with Steve Sachs at second. And we'll give you the American League changes as well, or a look right now at the lineup. In case you're keeping score, it should look like that. And they'll replace Higuera because he's gone 3, and Mosby has already replaced Henderson in left field. 1-1 the count on Ripken. Mike Scott, who's thrown that split-fingered fastball, and some will say something else as well on his route to success this season. What might that be, James? And we'll have to open up Mr. Palmer's mic. I think Scott probably cut you off.
Well, that was the split-fingered fastball, which is, and there you see what he calls it is a cut fastball. And what makes that pitch effective is the one he threw before. A little more pressure on the middle finger, watch the ball sail away. Ripken doesn't see that pitch too often. Of course, when you're throwing the ball around 96 miles per hour, it's going to make it even more effective. But going back to what you said earlier about the San Francisco Giants, Roger Craig has been the advocate of that split-fingered fastball, and it's made all the difference in the world for Mike Scott. I wonder what his record would be if the Astros here in Houston had scored a lot of runs that supported him well.
He's pitched brilliantly nearly every time out.
Well, last year, 18-8. This year, similar record.
1-0 on Barfield, batting for the second time in the game, and there's the pitch, and it's 1-1.
That was that split-finger fastball, and I'm wondering what Roger Craig is thinking now when he taught it to Mike Scott. He was a scout for the Detroit Tigers. Now he's a manager with the San Francisco Giants, and they're a game ahead of the Astros. And he's looking at the Astros and their main competitor's best pitcher. Interesting.
And I think Roger's one of those that thinks Scott is throwing that other pitch as well.
Yes, complained about it. Right?
Well, Buck Rogers up in Montreal. But of course, he said the other day, though, he thinks he's gotten honest.
Don't ask Barfield.
Well, you're seeing why he has struck out over more than one batter per inning. 167 and 161. The bottom falls out. If you do hit the ball, you hit the top half of the ball, and it's a grounder. Very effective pitch.
Jim, Mike Scott has told me that pitch is not that difficult to throw. If that's the case, and a lot of pitchers see the success that most pitchers are having with that pitch, why aren't more of them throwing it?
Well, first of all, I think you have to have an overhand delivery, and Mike Scott has that. Secondly, you have to have long fingers, which he has. Number 3, you have to have the right guy teach you. And Roger Craig did it in 10 days.
Frank White of the Kansas City Royals takes a strike. And the crowd coming to life as they sense Scott striking the side out. He's gotten Ripken, he's gotten Barfield, and White is hitting for Whitaker. 0-2. In a way, it's reminiscent of the game a couple of years ago in San Francisco with all the strikeouts.
I think a major difference, that was a twilight game. You expect that. You can see a little bit better here in the dome.
White makes contact, and good deep contact to center field, and gone on an 0-2 pitch with the crowd roaring for the side to be struck out. Frank White hits one out, and the American League leads 3-0. White, who you'll recall was the cleanup hitter in the World Series for Kansas City last year.
Well, we've seen 2 home runs tonight for the American League. They're both on 0-2 pitches. They're both what you would call mistakes. That was supposed to be one of those cut fastballs that didn't cut. A little bit too much of the plate. Frank White, as you said, has become a home run hitter. 22 last year, 10 already this year. Drills at the left center.
3-0, and Harold Baines now batting for Higuera. We'll see Huff in the bottom of the 7th inning as Baines of the White Sox, the sole representative of the White Sox, stands in to face Scott. Baines batting .316. A quiet type, but a solid and very steady player. And he grounds it to the right side where Sachs gets his first chance of the game and throws to Hernandez for a tie to the side. But White hits the homer, and the American League leads 3-0. Before we go to the bottom of the seventh, here's all the scoring in the game. Second inning, Winfield at second base, 2 out, 0-2 on Lou Whitaker. Over the wall, 2-0 American League. And it stays that way until the seventh inning with 2 out, and again an 0-2 count. Mike Scott working, and Frank White hits 1 out. And so it's 3-0 American League. The American League has not won an All-Star game in a National League ballpark in 24 years. The last time was 1962 at Wrigley Field in Chicago. That was one of the years in which they played 2 All-Star games. First one was in Washington, and the second one at Clark and Addison. Charlie Huff, who throws the knuckleball for the Texas Rangers. Hernandez, it's a soft fly ball to right field, and Barfield gathers it. 1 away. Hernandez taken care of, and Gary Carter coming up.
Quite a story. Charlie Huff broke his pinky finger on his pitching hand, shaking hands, kind of messing around with a guy early in the season, or really in spring training. Won 9 games. You kind of wonder if he had been there all year, where the Rangers would be, only a game and a half out in the American League West. The biggest question I had, Al, was to Lance Parrish, who is catching the knuckleball. Have you ever done it before? He said, yeah, I did it at AAA level. And I said, how do you go about doing it? Do you wait for the ball to get to you, or do you try to go out and snag it? He said, of course, Tim, you know about this. He said, you can't wait for the ball to get to you because it sometimes doesn't.
Well, as you see Carter up there, I'll tell you the best explanation that I have ever heard about how to hit the knuckleball, and it was told to me by Duke Snyder, who used to play catch on the sidelines with Gil Hodges, who had an excellent knuckleball. And Duke, who hit the knuckleball very well, learned how to hit it because he waited to catch it. That's what you have to do to hit it. You have to wait until the last minute, and that's the same formula you have to take into it when you take into consideration when you try to catch the ball. You wait till the last minute and you snare it.
There's a look at the National League lineup the way it is at the moment, and where they're hitting with Scott now in the number 2 spot. 2-1 to Carter is in the air to right field, and Barfield has another play, and that's 2-9s in the scorebook here in the 7th inning. I still think the best explanation was Bob Uecker, how to catch the knuckleball. Pick it up when it stops rolling.
Exactly. Wait till it stops rolling and pick it up.
There's an example of waiting a little bit long with Gary Carter. He waited, got the ball in on him, and fly ball to right field.
Well, by waiting when you're trying to catch it, and I caught 3 knuckleballers, among whom were Bob Tiefenauer and Barney Schultz back in 1964, who came to the Cardinals. But by waiting on it, your arms relax, and that's how you catch it most effectively, with relaxed arms.
Parker hits it foul, and the count is 0-1. Dave Parker batting for the first time in the game. Parker of the resurgent Reds in what's a true 16 battle in the National League West. You go figure it out. Anybody can win that division. And the Reds playing very well just prior to the All-Star break. Mattingly snares it, makes the play unassisted, and that's the 6th time in 7 innings the Nationals have gone out 1-2-3 as you look at Ralph Kiner and Kathleen Sullivan. American League leads 3-0 in the All-Star game, and a new battery. It's Sid Fernandez, the winningest pitcher in the National League, 12-2, the Hawaiian-born left-hander. Comes out of the bullpen to work the 8th, and his new battery mate is Jody Davis of the Chicago Cubs, who takes over for Gary Carter. As Kirby Puckett leads things off. Puckett has played the whole game, the starting center fielder, and Fernandez misses low for a ball, 1-0.
Well, it took 27 years since the state of Hawaii, 1959? And the pitcher now, Sid Fernandez and Charlie Huff, both from the state of Hawaii. And they're the first two pitchers ever to pitch from the state of Hawaii. Ron Darling was a member of the National League team last year. He's from Hawaii, but he did not pitch last year.
Puff left when he was young, and Fernandez, not only born there, grew up there, and still lives there. Great star at Kaiser High School and a one-time Dodger. And when the Dodgers had their problems in the bullpen a couple of years back and had to go to the Mets to pick up the reliever Carlos Diaz, they had to part with Fernandez, and that has really turned out to backfire on L.A. 2-2.
And a very deceptive windup, very long stride, hides the ball well. Good curveball, basically a two-pitch pitcher. Come up with a little bit of a changeup. Leading the National League in wins with 12. See him miss with a curveball. Last year, I think the incredible thing, only 9-9, but had the lowest hits allowed per 9 innings in the National League, even lower than Dwight Gooden. There's one criticism: he needs to throw more strikes. 57 walks in 118 innings this year, yet he still won 12 games.
Runs a lot of full counts as he does here, and Puckett draws the walk. And that is only the second walk in the game.
Take a look at Sid Fernandez. Again, very deceptive motion. Watch the long stride, uses his body very well. See the good follow through. You're going to teach somebody how to throw a pitch. That would be the way you want to do it. Just don't throw it with your arm. Use your body.
Now Lloyd Moseby bats for the first time in the game. The Blue Jay center fielder taking low, ball 1. Puckett at first base and nobody out. Mike Krukow throwing in the National League bullpen. As Fernandez misses outside, so he's in arrears 2-0. National League trying to give Chubb Feeney another going-away present. There's Krukow throwing. Chubb is the retiring president of the league, with Yale president A. Bartlett Giamatti taking over after the season. But the Americans have other ideas tonight. 3-0 in the 8th inning, and Fernandez behind now 3-0.
Lloyd Moseby hangs in there against lefties, and he's willing to take a walk. He's walked 41 times already this year. So if you're going to walk him, he'll take it, and he does.
So he went 7 innings with 1 walk in the game. That was Schmidt, who was walked by Higuera in the 5th. And now Puckett walks on a 3-2 pitch, and Moseby walks on 4 pitches. And Hernandez goes to the mound to visit with Fernandez, a not uncommon sight during the regular season.
And so did Jody Davis. And in an all-star game, as a catcher, you really don't know what to tell the pitcher. You met him in the clubhouse. You usually facing him with a bat in your hand. You know, you go out there, I mean, what are you going to tell him? Stay on top? I mean, there's nothing. You kind of just go out for show, give him the ball, and
throw strikes.
Throw strikes.
Well, in this case, that's pretty good advice.
And does it.
Meanwhile, here is Brooke Jacoby batting for Wade Boggs. The Cleveland third baseman comes up with runners at first and second, and he bunts foul. Now, normally in an all-star game, you're not going to see very much bunting with Puckett at second and Moseby at first. But in a situation like this, and the way things have gone for the American League, they're a little sensitive to the way they've been beat up on through the years, and they're looking for those extra runs here.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, but, you know, here's Jacoby's first at bat in the all-star competition, and he's called upon to sacrifice.
Yeah, we also had 20 home runs last year. This is not a normal situation for him. Acquired in '83 by the Indians for Len Barker. One of the trades that they've made over the last years that have really made them the surprise team in the American League. Record of 46 and 39. Presently in third place, right behind the Yankees.
There you can see graphically the Americans dominate early on in the series that started in 33. Then the Nationals win 11 of the 16, and then the real domination began as Jacoby goes down on strikes. So they sent him up there to bunt to took one shot at that and then strikes out swinging. And as is the case oftentimes with Fernandez, you get a lot of walks and a lot of strikeouts. You got 2 walks and 1 K.
Well, the deceptive high fastball, and I think the one thing that when you talk to hitters, what makes him, and Timmy, you've seen him all year, is that he throws the ball in so many different planes. A lot of balls up in the strike zone, but yet he can make the pitch down in the strike zone. So you really don't know where to look, up or down off Fernandez.
Yeah, he's one of those types of pitchers where you just throw the jug gun away, that radar gun. You don't even worry about it. He rarely breaks 90 miles an hour. The radar gun, important for pitchers like Clemens and Gooden, but not for a guy like Fernandez.
Jim Rice now of the Boston Red Sox, who's having a good year even though he's hitting fewer home runs. Hitting for a high average this season at .334, 9 homers. That's on Rice-like, but 60 RBIs.
Yes, but he can hit a home run. That's what is in the back of your mind. And those 60 RBIs this year means he's hitting with men on base.
Rice bats for Parrish with 2 on and 1 out in the 8th inning. 3-0 American League. 1-1.
Like the Jim has made a conscious effort to hit the ball the other way, one of the strongest hitters in baseball, and do that very well. Last year, 35 double plays. He's going the other way, staying out of the double play situation.
1-2. I would guess that's one of those Fernandez fastballs. If you haven't seen him, you probably can't believe how quickly it gets up there.
His foot hits the ground before his arm comes around. And usually when the foot hits the ground, the hitter has to commit himself, and then the arm comes from nowhere. And that was the type of swing, you're exactly right, that indicated the type of fastball that Fernandez throws most often.
1-2 pitch, the runners go. Rice strikes out, Davis's throw, Brown can't hang it out. It rolls away, but Puckett has to hold. So Jim Rice strikes out, but Davis's throw was in the dirt, and the inning is still alive with Mattingly coming up.
Well, one of the problems a catcher has with a right-handed hitter up, he does have that impediment of the right-handed hitter, and Jody Davis threw the ball behind Rice and into the dirt. Chris Brown couldn't find the ball initially. Had Puckett come up and just taken off for home, I think he would have made it. Look at Brown. Brown doesn't know whether the ball's down there. He's trying to hold the glove down. He might have had a hold of Kirby's foot instead of the ball.
Mattingly, who has struck out and grounded out tonight, he didn't start the game. Wally Joyner did and went 0 for 1 as Mattingly takes outside.
Well, he's finding out what life in the All-Star game is all about. Twice against Fernando and again Fernandez. Not 2 easy pitchers to hit off of. If you're a pitcher in the American League and you happen to be left-handed, you realize that Mr. Mattingly is not just an out. If you're left-handed, hangs in there very well. Last year, I think 17 or 18 of his 35 home runs were off left-handers.
One of those strange stats, New York Yankee hitters against Met pitchers were hitless before Dave Winfield got the double back in the 3rd inning, or the 2nd inning. Now Don Mattingly trying to do the same thing, obviously unaware of that stat.
1 ball, 2 strikes to count on him.
Now, if this was Pete Rose at the plate, he would know that.
Oh, yeah, he'd know it. Yeah.
You know who the pitchers were and who the hitters were and what the exact 0 for 3, 0 for 4, whatever.
Pitch. 2-2 now. Runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 down. There's Puckett. Mosby. First base open and Ripken on deck. And Mattingly goes down on a strike. So Fernandez strikes out the side. It's 3-0 American. Back after this from your local station.
Yeah, he's ready. How does it feel when the phone rings and it's for me? Who's batting? Who am I facing? Nervous? Want the nervous edge.
Come on, let's go get him.
Keep cool. Keep cool.
Keep it down, buddy.
I can't trust what I got in the bullpen. Here goes nothing.
Sports Illustrated. Get the feeling.
Olympic gold medal ice dance greats Torval and Dean in a world premiere performance. Plus the Harlem Globetrotters on ABC's Wide World of Sports Saturday.
Scoring summary now. Pretty brief. Dave Winfield a 2-out double in the second, and then Lou Whitaker hit a home run to make it 2-0. And Frank White hit a 2-out 0-2 home run in the 7th inning, 3-0. The American League pitching has been brilliant, and Charlie Huff works on Chris Brown of the Giants in the bottom of the 8th inning. Chris Brown having a great season as the Giants have come to the fore, a team that finished dead last year, brought Roger Craig in to manage, and as the saying goes, you got to like these kids. Brown is one of the kids. Chili Davis is not a kid anymore. He's been around, but he's having a fine year. And Mike Krukow is the other Giant here in Houston. In the air to deep left field, and going back is Mosby to play it off the wall. And Brown, in his second year with the Giants, in his first All-Star game, has a double.
We talked about waiting for the knuckleball, and watch Chris Brown wait for the knuckleball. Pops it over the head of Lloyd Mosby in left field, and that is the first extra base hit for the National League this evening. Of course, they only had two
He
hits.
did what all great hitters do, committed himself, but kept his hands back, had enough to go. And you talk to anybody, and they say, what's the difference between Chris Brown 1985 and 1986? He's cut down on his strokes. Last year, they saw him the finest fielder in the National League for third baseman. So one of the reasons why they're close to really leading the National League West.
On top by a game with Chili Davis. One of the few who wears his first name on the back of his uniform. Vida Blue of the Giants would be another, as it's fouled away. The new catcher for the American League is Rich Gedman, and there he is. Gedman of the Red Sox batting in the 4 spot. And Brooke Jacoby has stayed in the game. The Indian third baseman bats third.
That's really not his name. That's just a word denoting the conditions at Candlestick.
You won't want a spelling bee with it, but you get the idea. Foul away in the count 1-2. I mean, that kind of chili's supposed to be hot, isn't it?
Oh.
Right now, the National League has 2 hits. And wouldn't you know that Whitey Herzog's the manager? I mean, the Cardinals haven't hit all season, so what else is new for Whitey? He must feel right at home tonight. As Davis strikes out, but on a knuckleball, and Gedman throws to first and gets him on a great play. Brown goes to third. Rich Gedman hustling back, picking it up, and he had to think about the on-deck circle as well.
Throwing in one motion. Watch Gedman off with a mask. Davis didn't run right away, but Chili Davis can run. And Rich Gedman making a very quick play over there, obviously with first base unoccupied. Then on the third strike, the catcher must catch it. Gedman made some kind of play.
And U.B. Brooks, who comes up now, wasn't exactly giving him any help. Brooks was in the on-deck circle, and Gedman had to think about throwing around Brooks as well. Infield plays back. It's a strikeout and a wild pitch as Brooks takes a strike. The count. Drill to left field, a foul, and the count 0-2. Crowd here chanting, I believe we want Davis. Glenn Davis, the Astro, who was out earlier and would have pinch hit at a prior inning, continued on.
20 home runs this year for the National League, and you look at Charlie Huff, and in all honesty, they are hitting the ball rather crisply. And Dick Hauser with Dave Ricchetti and Don Ossie leading the major leagues with 22 saves. And Willie Hernandez down the bullpen has chosen not to get anybody up.
I'll tell you, a lot of times you can tell apprehension in a catcher by what his right hand does. And watch Rich Gedman. Just before he receives the knuckleball, that hand goes out, it's rigid. And what he's trying to do is just to protect anything. He's got to call for the knuckleball. Now watch his right hand. See it open up like that? That's an apprehensive catcher. Believe me. Trust me. I guarantee you want to throw your body in front of the ball, anything you can, but the ball's dancing around. What do they call those butterfly catchers, or lepidopterist? Is that right?
Is that right? You're asking us if that's right?
No, I think
who are you looking at? That sounds all right. Who do you think you're working with?
Another strikeout. It gets away from Gedman, who throws home, and Huff covers. No. Bruce Fleming says safe. And the perils of the knuckleball.
Yeah, but the play should have gone to first base. Watch his right hand come out. See how stiff it is? Remember we talked about waiting for the knuckleball to relax the arms. The arms weren't relaxed, and Gedman plays at first base. If you get the out at first base, it's a 3-1 ball game, bottom of the 8th inning.
That's exactly what Charlie Huff is thinking, is he's late covering home plate. Gedman makes the wrong play, so does Huff, and the run scores.
Remember the one-hitter earlier in the year when Charlie Huff didn't cover home plate?
Exactly.
Beat him a ball game.
And the runner scored from second base, and that was the night that Huff came within a couple of outs of a no-hitter.
Right. Wally Joyner was the runner at second base. It ended up a one-hitter, and he lost 2-1 to California.
The only debatable thing, though, here is that you have 3 of the premier relievers in the American League that do not throw a knuckleball. You have a catcher that obviously is having difficulty. Why aren't any of them warming up?
Well, they heard you, because there goes Rigetti. As Raines hits a bouncer foul. So Huff in the inning gives up the double. He has 2 strikeouts, but Gedman has to make a great play to get 1 out at first. That last strikeout is also a pass ball charge to Gedman to allow the run to score. It's 3-1 with Brooks at first base, 1 out, and Raines up for the second time in the game. Charlie Huff, 38 years old, a long career, finally makes it to an all-star game, and as Jim mentioned, started the season on the disabled list with that weird handshake. He was actually shaking hands with a circuit court judge in Florida, good buddy of his, and they went through a pinky shake, and the shake sent Huff to the bench, and the judge went back to the bench as well. Chopper foul, and it's still 0-2.
Obviously, it's a terrible situation for Rich Gedman. I mean, here's his first experience, to my knowledge, at handling a knuckleball. Jim, you said earlier that Lance Parrish had handled one in AAA ball. I know that Gedman hasn't been handling a knuckleballer at Fenway this year.
It also presents another problem. A knuckleballer ball doesn't get there quick. We're talking about somebody that throws 60 miles per hour.
Time had been called by Bruce Fleming, the plate umpire, because a balk had been called. So Huff has thrown a wild pitch. His knuckler leads to a pass ball, and now a balk.
I think he called it on the stop. You got to come to a 1,001-second stop, but no knuckleballer that I've ever seen ever stop.
Well, no pitcher ever does if he can get away with it.
That's right.
And the reason he's not stopping is because he doesn't stop is because it takes longer. He doesn't get the ball to home plate as quickly, and you can steal easier off knuckleballers. Gedman knows that. Huff knows that. So does the National League.
1-2. Don Ossie of the Orioles joins Dave Rigetti in the American League pen. 3-1, the American League. 1 out. Brooks at second, and Raines fouls it away. Still 1-2. Virginia Raines. Tim's wife and her husband representing the tying run.
I tell you, Virginia Raines, quite an athlete in her own right, down in Sanford, Florida. Ran track down there. Marvelous athlete.
2-2. Their kids might have a little sprinter's breathing, huh?
They got a shot. just trying to battle that knuckleball back there. Certainly empathize with him.
3-2.
I don't think Charlie Huff doesn't know that. You can't give a pitcher a lot of confidence if he knows the catcher can't catch what he's throwing. So maybe you just don't throw as good a knuckleball, and then you give it a little bit of an advantage to the hitter. This guy doesn't need an advantage.
Got him. Throw him the knuckleball, and Gedman makes the tag for the out. So Huff has now struck out 3 in the inning, but there's still 1 out to get. As Steve Sachs of the Dodgers comes up.
Here's that bug one more time. The dead spin. Dead spin. Look, reaching right, coming back left, and it finally hits the heel of the glove. I'll tell you, sometimes you're not a catcher when you're catching a knuckleballer. You're a blocker. Get a lot of skate saves back there.
Sachs is at the plate. A 5-0-1. So Huff has a chance to strike out 4 in the inning.
I think a wild shot to say that that's never been done.
I would think so. Not in the All-Star game. It's been done in regular season baseball. 2-0 the count. It has not been done in All-Star competition. Meanwhile, we've had 19 strikeouts in the game tonight as the pitcher's a fastball for a strike, and the count is 2-1. Brooks is at second. 2 out. 2-1 on Steve Sachs. 2-2.
Throws a good knuckleball, the hitter can't hit it, and the catcher can't catch it. For the same reason. Did you ever have a problem similar to this?
Oh, you kidding me, Court.
To left center for a base hit. And a run will score as the throw comes to second. So it's 3-2, and the crowd will really explode now because Glenn Davis of the Astros comes up to pinch hit.
Well, a good knuckleball, but it's down the middle of the plate. Tim McCarver says Sachs waits on it, and Mosby concedes the run. Something they should have done earlier in the inning.
Right.
The out at first base.
You're right. That way the inning's over.
Meanwhile, Hauser comes out to the mound. He's got Ossie in the bullpen and Dave Righetti. This is something a manager really doesn't want to do in an all-star game, go to the mound and get somebody, but he's got to do it here with Glenn Davis coming up. 3-2 American League. We'll be back. Rip Sewell pitched in 3 All-Star games in the 40s, but is best known for serving up this home run to Ted Williams on his famous Eephus pitch. Today, despite the loss of both legs, Rip manages 3 rounds of golf a week in the Florida sunshine. Dave Righetti of the New York Yankees comes out of the bullpen now to face Glenn Davis, who leads the National League in home runs. And that's remarkable because in this ballpark, it's very difficult to hit homers. It's almost impossible for an Astro or a Cardinal, let's say, at Busch Stadium to lead the league in homers. But Davis has a good shot.
To give you some idea, he has hit 9 home runs in this ballpark. And 2 years ago, the entire Astro team hit 18 all year.
Incredible strength, a quick bat, likes the ball out over the plate. If you're going to try to get him out, you want to come up and in. Righetti certainly has the velocity to do that. I think the reason Dick Hauser brought him in is Steve Sachs with 22 stolen bases. You bring in Righetti, a little tougher to steal on. Don Ossie, who's leading the major leagues in saves, is right-handed. Tall guy, about 6'4", 6'5", easier to steal on. What Righetti has fallen prey to this year is the lack heck of a setup man in New York. Brian Fisher, the man they counted on, has not done the job. Has been, I think he's still with the Yankees, but sent out a time or two.
There goes Sachs. Good jump up and in. The throw to second is not in time.
So they steal the base anyway. And as in many times, you go on the first move from a left-hander. Steve with a good jump. Gedman with a quick release makes a good throw, but it's not in time. Sachs easily beats the throw. Frank White with a nice stop, keeping the ball from going into center field.
1-0 on Glenn Davis, the Astro first baseman. Fouled away, 1-1. Well, this is storybook time. The local hero makes good. He's the go-ahead run.
Well, as George Brett said so many times, we give them a little opportunity talking about the American League. They usually seize it. Gedman didn't take the out at first base. He had the leading home run hitter at the plate.
And it's 2-1. Jacoby of the Indians makes the catch, and that's that. But the Nationals get 2 to make it 3-2 as we go to the ninth. There are the attractions this week on ABC's Wide World of Sports Saturday. Torvill Dean, the sensational Olympic ice dancing gold medalist, in action in the World Ice Spectacular, and the Harlem Globetrotters on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Then July 26th, the heavyweight fight, Mike Tyson against Marvis Frazier, and a look back at the recent fight between Barry McGuigan and Steve Cruz, with Cruz upsetting the Irishman. Mike Krukow of the San Francisco Giants, thrilled to be in an all-star game, having a great season for the Giants, and pitching the ninth inning here, going to work on Ripken in the count 1-0. So Cal Ripken, who's played every inning for 4 years, just keeps on rolling. It's the ninth, and he's still in there.
What's the old saying? You rest in the wintertime, right?
Closest that streak ever came to ending was last year, where he sprained his ankle, like on a Monday night. Iced it all night long, all day long, and then taped it up and went out and played.
Barfield and White to follow. Nice stop by Krukow. Stabs it on a hop. Takes care of Ripken, who goes 0 for 4 tonight without hitting the ball out of the infield. 12 strikeouts for the American League tonight, and the National Leaguers have struck out 7 times, so a record has been tied. And we're on the verge of a new one. 19 strikeouts total in the game. The All-Star game mark set 2 years ago at Candlestick with 21. Barfield at the plate. 1-0. When the National League bats in the bottom of the ninth inning, it'll be Keith Hernandez. Then they go to the pitcher's spot. They'll hit for Krukow, and then Dave Parker is due up third. Popped up. Brown is there. And Chris puts it away. 2 gone. And Frank White, who is now the difference in the game. White came up in the 7th inning, 2 out. The count went to 0-2. The crowd began to rise to its feet in anticipation of the Astro Mike Scott striking the side out. And then White parked one into the seats and left.
Very big run. What that run did was really make a grand slam, or 4 runs, the amount of runs that the National League needed to come up with to beat the American League. And it's just a classic game of baseball, whether it's the World Series, the All-Star game, a regular Major League season. The National League has really made 2 mistakes. 0-2 curveball by Gooden, the 0-2 pitch by Scott. Both have turned out to be home runs.
Fly ball to left field. Tim Raines will put it away. And up come the National League in the bottom of the ninth inning with the Americans on top, 3-2. Dave Righetti tries to save it for the American League. Again, the American League has not won an All-Star game in a National League park since 1962. Wrigley Field in Chicago. That's the last time. The Americans since then have won in Detroit in 71 and at Comiskey in Chicago in 83. And that's Willie Hernandez and Don Ossie throwing in the bullpen. With Keith Hernandez coming up, then Jody Davis will bat second in the inning, as they had inserted Davis into the 4 spot when he came in, and Parker hits third. Monday Night Baseball back next week. The Mets against Cincinnati. The Giants taking on the Cardinals. Check your local listings for the game in your area. So in the Astrodome, where it's been a big year for the Houston Astros, new manager Hal Lanier, new president and general manager Dick Wagner, and a capacity crowd of the Dome looking on, hopeful of a National League comeback here as Hernandez starts the bottom of the ninth inning with a chopper back of third, fielded in fair ground by Jacoby, guns him down. So Keith is 0 for 4 tonight, and Jody Davis.
Jacoby on the line at third base. In the All-Star game, you play standard brand baseball, and traditionally, whenever in doubt, you go to what you've been doing for years, and that's guarding the line. And that time it paid off.
We talked about that in the playoffs. Might not always be the right thing to do, but certainly paid off then.
Davis takes outside. One change for the American League. They finally get Cal Ripken out of a ball game. That's the significance of this. Tony Fernandez, the brilliant young shortstop of the Blue Jays, taking over. Davis rips it into center field for a base hit. And so the tying run is at first base. And Dave Parker comes up as the winning run.
Most likely you'll see a pinch runner here. Tony Pena, the third catcher. Let's take a look at the fastball. Right down the middle. Davis having an excellent year, just pings it to center field. So you have the tying run at first and the winning run at the plate.
And I love it. Tony Pena is a pinch runner. Those catchers can do it all, pal.
Some catchers.
Well, let's see. You 67 All-Star game. You're 3 for 3. You led the National League in triples. What else can we get to tonight? Well, I still can't believe that.
Dave Parker, who if he hit a home run would cement the MVP award of this game, I'm sure, and that's something he's already won back in '79 with his arm. Fouled it away. He threw out 2 runners that night at Kingdom in Seattle, July 17th, 1979, to win the MVP award. And he was 1 for 3 at the plate in that one. Tonight, Parker 0 for 1, having grounded out. Rips it, base hit into right field. Pena around second, goes to third, and so the tying and winning runs are on. And with Righetti a left-hander and Chris Brown a right-handed batter coming up, Hauser goes to the mound. He has Don Ossie in the bullpen for Baltimore and Hernandez.
Watch this reaction by Dave Parker, extending those arms and rifling one to right field. Check this out. You like that?
Very much. They don't want to win too badly, do they?
Well, they can smell it now. Hauser says, give me the right-hander, not Hernandez, who started it. He wants Ossie to face Brown. And we'll be back after this. Don Ossie having a great year with the Orioles, and so it comes down to Ossie trying to slay the Giants. He's got Chris Brown and then Chili Davis on deck. Meanwhile, there was Willie Hernandez thinking he was coming into the game. The left-hander with a screwball thought he was coming in to face the righty, and Ossie says, "Excuse me."
Yes, let 23 saves pass them by. Looking at a total of 41 saves down there, those two guys. One of the reasons, as you look at Chris Brown, doubled his first time up. Ossie is the reason the Orioles have stayed within 10 games of the Red Sox in the American League East.
The infield is at double play depth, and it's 1-0. So it'll be interesting on a ground ball. If they can turn it, the game would be over. If they get the force, the game would be tied.
He can be a strikeout pitcher.
And there's a little grounder to second, and White touches for one and throws to first for a double play. And so they play the infield halfway, and it works. With White throwing out Brown in the American League, and Dick Hauser comes to Houston and wins an All-Star game in a National League park for the first time in 24 years. Good ball game.
Really was a check swing by Chris Brown, and he hit the ball too hard towards second. Dick Hauser gambling, and the double play worked. Easy double play for Frank White. Here it is one more time. Watch the check swing.
Well, the reason for this, Timmy, is that a slider looks like a fastball. Brown thinks it's a fastball. Halfway commits himself. One of the best second basemen in baseball.
The MVP is Roger Clemens, and there were several candidates tonight. The Chevrolet Most Valuable Player for the 1986 All-Star Game. The Boston right-hander who grew up here in Houston and pitched 3 perfect innings. Valenzuela was brilliant tonight. Lou Whitaker hit a 2-run homer. You can make a case for him. Frank White hit a home run in the 7th inning that turned out to be the game winner. Don Ossie comes out of the bullpen to induce the double play with the tying and winning runs on base. So that's the story. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, Don Drysdale with thanks to Alan Roth and Steve Hurt saying good night from Houston, where the All-Star Game has been brought to you by Coors and Coors Light. Beers with a difference worth tasting. By Chevrolet, who invites you to drive today's Chevy, live today's Chevy. By Goodyear, you either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by United States Liberty Coins. Keep Liberty in mint condition with United States Liberty Coins. Again, the final score was the American League 3, the National League 2. Be sure to join us tonight for ABC News Nightline immediately following your late local news. Travel arrangements made through a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline. Nobody knows Hawaii like United. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television. States Liberty Coins. Keep Liberty in mint condition with United States Liberty Coins.